Before we jump into today's show, I've got a really exciting announcement to make. The autumn cohorts for Start Your Podcast group program are now open. There are 5 dates between September and October, and it's a 6-week program that will get you launched before Christmas. So if podcasting was on your to-do list this year, if you really want to get your podcast up and done by the end of 2023, then come and join me for one of those cohorts and let's make it happen. I have a free masterclass available for you called Understanding the Power of Podcasting. You can go over to donnaeade.com/masterclass, watch the masterclass and get access to that enrollment. I hope to see you in one of the autumn cohorts very soon. That's donnaeade.com/masterclass. Let's get back to the show. You're listening to the Wedding Procast UK, the place to be if you are a UK wedding professional looking to grow and streamline your business. I'm your host, Donna Eade, 10-year wedding photography veteran and CEO at the Society of Professional Wedding Vendors. If you want to grow and streamline your business, this is the podcast for you. Make sure you hit subscribe where you listen or join our email list at www.spwv.co.uk. You'll find the sign up form at the bottom of every episode, and by doing so, you won't miss a thing. So let's jump into today's show. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone, and Merry Christmas. I feel like I can say it now because this is the last episode of the Wedding Procast UK for 2021. We are taking a 2-week break and we will be back in the new year. Very excited about what is to come next year on the podcast. More interviews, more information, more step-by-step, more deep dives into areas of our business. If you have got anything that you would like covered on the podcast or anybody you would like to particularly hear from in the wedding industry or in the business industry that you would like to have me interview on the show, then do drop me an email at donna@spwv.co.uk. I'd love to hear your thoughts. This podcast is here to help you grow and streamline your business. So please do send your ideas my way. I will try my best to include them in the lineup. This is all about getting you further ahead in your business. So I want to make sure that it is providing the information you need. So today we are going to be looking at starting 2022 without a to-do list. I don't know if you're a list maker. My sister is an avid list maker. Nothing makes her happier than sitting down with a notebook and pen and writing a good list. Now, I am not so much of a list maker, I have to say. I try to do what I'm going to talk about in the episode in here about 3 things that I want to get done in the day. We're going to discuss how well that goes. But yeah, I'm not a big list maker unless I'm sitting down and going, okay, I want to get a load of stuff done today. What do I need to get done? And I will sit and write it all down. But I don't tend to come back to it and check it off. It's just to get it out of my head. But that's usually on a more personal note, like if I was going to want to get the pantry painted and I wanted to get a load of washing done and things like that. And the reality is, most of the time I don't write it down. It just sits in my head and I deal with it. So today we're going to talk about how we can work more effectively, because I'm not saying that my way is effective, more effectively without a to-do list that, is growing longer than your arm. So let's jump into the episode. So firstly, guilt. Now, I've alluded to the fact that we were going to talk about it. Well, here it is. Guilt is a huge thing for me. I discovered back in November that I spend a lot of time feeling guilty. Guilt, even about things that I can't control. So I will tell you a little story time with me. I have a daughter. She is 20 years old. If you are watching the video, There she is. So she is 20 years old now, and she lives at home. And house prices are just extortionate. And I'm talking rental prices here because she's not in a position where she's able to buy a house at the moment, but just renting is so expensive. Now, looking at it, I feel that it hasn't actually changed much for a while, but it seems like it's just unattainable for these kids to be able to move out of home. I have a sister who is 21, so she's a year and 2 months older than my daughter, and she is living at home with my mum, and they just haven't got the funds within the jobs that they're doing to be able to move out on their own. Now, if they wanted to move in with people, they probably could do it. But the thing there is, I feel like their generation is a lot more solitary. They really gain comfort from their own space and they don't really want to share it with anybody. Possibly a boyfriend would be okay or a girlfriend would be okay, but not a house of strangers. So yeah, it's a difficult time and I feel guilt about it. I feel guilt that she is having to live at home and she doesn't want to be, and I can understand it because I'm her mum and I care about her. So I want to know if she's coming home at night. I want to know what sort of time to expect her. If she's got work the next day, I expect her to be home at a reasonable time so she can sleep, because she doesn't take care of herself in that respect and she will stay out too late and then be exhausted, make mistakes at work, get in trouble, get angry about, all of the things. I am there trying to be her mum. And she doesn't necessarily need me to be her mum, but she's living under my roof. She's got to live by my rules. And I know she doesn't like it. But I feel so much guilt about the fact that she can't move out, because I moved out at 17. I was living out of my home with neither of my parents by the time I was 17, and I did not go back home. So I have been living out of home now for like 23 years. And both my sister and my daughter are both, 3-4 years older than that, and they're still living at home. And I feel guilty that I can't help her move out, because I think it would make our relationship better, because we do grate on each other a lot. So I also feel a lot of guilt and anxiety around stopping my partner from doing what he would like to do. So we are dancers. We dance salsa and bachata and a few other variations that we can dance. We don't teach those though. But we both are able to teach beginners to improvers level on both of those dances, and we loved it. We used to go very, very regularly before the pandemic. On Monday nights we would be in Peterborough dancing bachata. Shout out to Jessica and the crew. If you are in Peterborough, definitely check them out. You can find her on Facebook. I'll pop the link in the description. And on Tuesday nights, we would go to Estrella's in Northampton, which is held at the Picturedrome. So if you are a Northamptonian and want to do salsa, head down to Estrella's at the Picturedrome on a Tuesday night. They are fantastic as well. But since the pandemic, I have had a lot of anxiety about going back to dance, because it is partner dancing, and in classes you rotate around and dance with different people, and you're face to face with these people. It's not ballroom. You're not like with your head over your shoulder. You are face to face with these people, and you're generally having a conversation with them as well, but you're very close, and that makes me nervous. And I've just been holding back. Now, could he go without me? Absolutely. Would I let him? Absolutely. Does he want to? No. He doesn't want to go without me. He wants us to go together. And I understand that for him, but it puts extra guilt on me, because I feel like I'm stopping him doing something that he wants to do because of my nerves and anxiety around it. I also get that guilt that I'm at home all day. You know, I spoke a couple of episodes ago about my mental health and how I've been struggling with that recently. Well, struggling to focus on the work that I'm doing, not doing the housework because I'm supposed to be working, and then other people that live here getting home and the house is still the same state as it was when they left, and I haven't really got much done during the day. I feel guilty. There is guilt there. So please, please tell me in the comments that I am not alone in this, because it feels awful. And one of the other things that makes people feel immense guilt is when they write a to-do list and they fail to check off the things that they wanting to get done because they haven't done them. And so for me, if I'd have been making to-do lists the last sort of month or so with my mental health the way it's been, it just would have been awful for me to have seen that I'd written like 20 things on this list of things to get done this week and that I'd only ticked off 3. I'd feel like I failed. I would feel guilty that I hadn't done what I said I wanted to get done. So the guilt is real and it's not healthy for us. So what we've got to remember is we all have the same 24 hours in the day. Some people are able to get a shed load of stuff done in that 24 hours, and others of us just can't do that. And that is okay. We are all different people and we all progress at different rates. So guess what? Comparison is the thief of joy. Don't compare yourself to others. Let's focus on what you can do. Yeah. So I sit there all the time comparing myself to other people in business. And the thing is you're only seeing their highlights. You know, how are you seeing their business? You're seeing it on social media. You're seeing it when you have a conversation with them. Are they telling you the full truth? You don't know. Do you know what's going on behind their closed doors? No, they're probably sitting there just the same as you, guilt-ridden that they've got these lists that they're not completing, wondering how they're supposed to get it all done, feeling the overwhelm, and then feeling Christmas looming as well. Added stress. So let's focus on what we can do. I urge you to go back to episode 83, where I talked about making 2022 a success. We talked about milestone setting, and I talked in there about the difference between milestones and goals and why I like to use the word milestones. That is related to guilt, so do have a listen to that. But also, I've now got the milestones book out on Amazon. It is an annual milestone setting book. You can grab it now. It's $5.99. I will put the link in the show notes. It's about 58 pages and it takes you through what I talk about in that episode about setting your annual goals, breaking it down into your monthly goals, and then breaking it down into tasks for each week. And there is space in that book to do it. And you can transfer it out, your weekly tasks, out onto a piece of paper that you stick up somewhere so you can see them. But definitely check that out if you want to. All support is gratefully received. Anyone can use it, but obviously it is focused, geared towards the wedding industry, in the fact that when I talk about examples of things, it is the wedding industry that I'm using. But the templates, everything that's laid out, you can all use it, whatever your business is. So if you've got a friend that would benefit from setting some milestones, then definitely make a great Christmas gift. And you can get it on Prime. So by creating milestones, we're saying in writing what's most important to us about 2022. And we're also breaking those big milestones down into doable steps. And this is something that I literally just learned a couple of days ago. I listened to a webinar about piles. And they were talking about how you actually deal with like clutter in your life, digital clutter, physical clutter. I spoke about digital clutter in the sustainability episode, but they were talking about how you deal with clutter and how it actually is you should start from the inside out. So it's about the way you think about it, rather and clearing your mind will actually clear your surfaces rather than clearing your surfaces, clearing your mind. It was very interesting. I will put a link to those guys. It was April and Eric in the show notes, so you can head over and take a listen to them. But what they said is procrastination is often a direct result of not identifying the next action properly. So here's an example they gave on the webinar. One of their students had lots of boxes of books in their living room. And they were in the way. They hadn't had guests round because these books were all over the place. And April said to this student, "So what's your next step?" And she said, "Well, I need to buy bookcases for the office so I can get them off the floor and into the office." Sounds like a simple next first step, but she hadn't done it yet. So April pressed her and said, "Well, if I give you my computer now, you can order a bookshelf, yeah?" And she said, "No, because I need to know the size of the space to get the right size bookcase." "Well," April says, "you can go and measure the space." And she was like, "Well, no, because I can't find my tape measure." And other students on the call started to giggle, and the students started to giggle, and April started to giggle, because actually the first actionable step was to find or buy a new tape measure. So that was the first step. She couldn't buy the bookcase until she'd done the other things, and she was procrastinating over buying the bookcase because she hadn't identified these previous steps that she needed to do. It's too overwhelming. Yeah. So to put down, my next step to getting these books off my floor is to buy or find my tape measure. That is a doable task. There is no barrier. There is no, but I need to do this first, like there was with buying the bookcase. So we need to look at that when we are setting ourselves up for failure, in my opinion, by making things or putting things, on our list that are just too big to do in the time that we've set. If this student had turned around and said, "Okay, I'm going to order a bookcase for that space and I'm going to allocate 5 minutes to do it," she will have failed because she needed to measure that wall. She needed to find her tape measure. Now, finding the tape measure might have taken 20 minutes, or she might need to order one because she doesn't know where it is, and ordering one would be quicker. Well, that's going to take a whole day. So she's already going to fail at that. And when you fail, you feel guilty about failing. So, we need to make sure that we are not doing this to ourselves. We are setting ourselves up for failure. So we need to get realistic. And we're going to jump into that after this quick break. Today's episode of the Wedding Procast UK is brought to you by the Society of Professional Wedding Vendors, an organisation set up for UK-based wedding suppliers to help increase their credibility through a code of conduct and streamline their business processes so they can get back to the creative stuff they love. To find out more and join us in the membership, head over to www.spwv.co.uk. We can't wait to welcome you inside. So, what is realistic? Realistic is knowing yourself and knowing your tasks. If it is something that you do regularly, like for me, my podcasts, you should know how long these tasks are going to take you to do. And it is about getting your head down and doing this thing focused, not you doing it, getting distracted by social media, you doing it, getting distracted by your phone, you doing it. This is about, if I sit down and I focus on this task, how long is it going to take me to get done? And you should be able to know what that is when you're not playing around with procrastination station. So with things you haven't done before, you're going to need to take an educated guess. But look at those action steps like April was talking about. There was 3 steps there, including the buy a bookcase step. And this student had only talked about getting the bookcase. She'd missed some steps. So you need to look at those steps. So for me, I grossly underestimated how long it takes me to get a podcast up. Sounds simple, doesn't it? I've recorded it, I've edited it. How do we get it up? Well, I have to load it up into Buzzsprout, which is my podcast host. they push it out to all the other podcast platforms, to Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and all of those places. They do all that for me. So you think, oh, well, that's it. It's done, right? No. I then have to embed it on my website. I need to create a bit.ly link for you guys so I can make it easy to find. I need to add that bit.ly link to my Instagram link tree. I need to put the show notes onto the website. I also need to copy those show notes over to Buzzsprout, because I have my own podcast website on Buzzsprout and people might find me there, so I don't want it to be empty. I need to create the graphics for the website to go along with the podcast. I need to create social graphics to promote the podcast. I need to create social captions to go with those graphics. I need to upload it onto YouTube, and then I need to embed the YouTube onto my website. So that is a lot of work, because it's not just about how quickly I can do something. It's about how quickly things load, how quickly things save. And looking at all of those different platforms that I've got to go to. There's Buzzsprout, there's my website, there's Bitly, there's Linktree, there is Canva, there's YouTube. So that's like 7, I think I counted, 7 different platforms that it's going to take me to get my podcast loaded and ready to go. And then I have to create the emails that I send to my subscribers so that they know that the episode is coming out. So it is not a 5-minute job. And I will say, oh yeah, it's only going to take me 30 minutes, and it can take me 2.5 hours, especially because of those interruptions that I might get. So what I would say is, rather than having a to-do list, if you set your milestones and you have set those projects that you're going to work on, and in that episode, in episode 83, I talk about only having sort of 3 big projects in a quarter to handle, breaking those projects out over that 12-week period, and then breaking, having those 3 things a week that you're working on. During your day, you're going to just put 3 things that are going to help you hit those goals that you've set, those milestones that you've set yourself. Be realistic about how long it takes to do those things, and make sure that they are things that are going to help move your business forward. Okay, because those are the important ones. Emptying your email inbox is satisfying. It really is. So satisfying. But it's not going to pay the bills. So if there is something more important to do, make sure you're doing that. But with these 3 things, it shouldn't necessarily take you all day to do them, because you're going to be realistic about your time. So you should still have time to do the general day-to-day business stuff. Okay. So my health coach, who I've mentioned before, shout out to Angela, she said to me, okay, put a list of 3 things that you need to do. What would normally be on your list? And I told her the 3 things that I'd had on my list to do the previous day, and I had failed to do 1.5 of them. So I'd done one, I'd done half of another, and then I'd completely forgotten about the other thing entirely until I sat down the next day and looked back at my previous day and went, oh, well, I didn't do that. But then I feel guilty. But these things are too big for the time that I've allowed for them. So she said, choose the 3 things. You know how long these things take. Make sure that you are timing it out correctly. Choose 3 things that you can do, and then be done for the day. How wonderful would that be to just knock out those 3 things first thing in the morning and then have the afternoon off? And that's what she was saying to me. If you want to take the afternoon off because you've done those 3 things, if it helps to keep you focused, if you know you've got all day to do 3 things, then you might procrastinate a little bit. You might head to procrastination station and be scrolling on TikTok. That is your prerogative, but know that those 3 things take time to do. So if you can set yourself a timer, knowing that this task should take you maybe an hour, set your timer for an hour and focus on it, close down everything else, focus on it, get it done. You're done. Take a break, have a cup of tea, come back, do task 2, do task 3, bang them out. And then if you want to carry on working, you can. and you can feel good about the fact that you've got your top 3 done and you're now moving into extras, and you can feel good about yourself. Sometimes it's just going to be one of those days you get calls, your child needs you, somebody interrupts you. Sometimes it's going to be those, and the 3 things are going to take you all day, but have it in your wheelhouse that you are going to complete those 3 things that day no matter what. But you have to make sure that those are doable things. And I wasn't making sure they were doable. I literally had it that I was going to get 3 podcasts up. I was going to research a new social system of scheduling my social media. And I can't remember what the first thing was, but there were 3 things. And the podcasts themselves would have taken me all day to do. So I was really overstretching what I could get done. And then when I got to the end of the day, I quit my day feeling exhausted, feeling like I hadn't got everything done because I knew that I hadn't got those podcasts done. And then when I came back the next day, I felt extra guilt because I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that social media thing, just didn't even get to it. So try and be really realistic about what you can get done in the time that you have. By having these milestones, by having them broken down, by setting yourself 3 things a week that you want to get done to move your business forward, and then choosing 3 tasks a day that are going to help you to achieve those 3 things a week, it should ease the guilt around what you should be doing. Because a lot of the time we're doing stuff and we think, oh, I should be doing this. So if I'm perhaps answering an email from somebody, I'm thinking, oh, I should be doing my podcast. That needs to be up tomorrow. And this is getting in the way. I'm going to be late with it, blah, blah, blah. By doing what I've suggested with these milestones, it should ease the guilt around that, because you know that by doing those 3 things, you are going to be hitting your goals that you've set out for yourself, because those 3 things are going to lead to your top 3 for the week being done. They are going to lead to your bigger milestones getting completed. So you don't need to feel guilty of not getting to inbox 0, because that's not what your goal is. Your goal is to get those 3 things a day done. Okay. So make it a 2022 goal or milestone to not feel so guilty. Plan your work and work your plan, and you won't go far wrong in 2022. This is it from me this side of Christmas. So I hope, however you are spending the holidays, that you get to spend it with your loved ones and have some much deserved time off. Enjoy every second. Personally, I am a Christmas girl. So Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all. For those that don't celebrate Christmas, happy holidays to you. Thank you so much for joining me for 2021. I hope you have found value in this podcast over the last year. If you have, it would be absolutely wonderful if you would share your favorite episode on social media, drop a review on Apple Podcasts. That would really, really help me. And I hope to see you in the new year. Bye for now. Don't forget to hit those stars and leave a review of the podcast where you listen if you found value in what you heard today. It's a free way you can help the podcast reach more people just like you.